What's up, everybody? My name is Alan Kett. Welcome to the Museum of Graffiti's Oral Histories podcast. We're excited to be here today with the incomparable Mimi, the founder of the Few and Far Collective and an incredible graffiti artist in her own right. Welcome, Mimi.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
It's a pleasure to have you, and thank you for making this trip. I know Miami in the summer is not the best place to be.
It's beautiful here. I like it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, Mimi, this podcast really focuses on the history of the artists that come on board and visit. And, with you, we'd like to get to know you and your background, your history, everything about you that you'd like to share. And so can you take us back to that moment when you first discovered graffiti and, what sparked in you? When was that?
So I think that I have to take it back to when I was a child because I didn't see where I grew up. I grew up in like the mountains of Northern California. So we don't really have, it's like a small town and we don't have we didn't have like big buildings and there wasn't people spray painting on stuff. So I think it kind of started with me. My grandma named me Mimi, but it was spelled M-I-M-I. And that was my nickname as a kid. And I'm dyslexic, so I misspelled it, M-E-M-E, when I was learning how to write. And so when I was a kid, I would have a crayon and I would write Mimi on my room wall, and I shared a room with my 3 other siblings, so I was ruining the walls and they were getting pissed because I just was drawing Mimi all over it, but I wasn't spelling my name correctly. So I think that I've actually was into it at a very young age, like when I was learning how to write. And then I think maybe my family upbringing kind of played a huge role in that because at a young age I grew up in the cannabis culture, so my family and a lot of my friends' families and our neighbors, people were growing cannabis, and food and stuff. And I think by the time I was 6 years old, I knew about not letting the police onto our property, and especially if our parents weren't home, and so we were taught how to talk to the police at a young age. So, and I was taught about warrants and all types of things. So I think that definitely played a role in, I don't know, I guess me getting into graffiti. And then we didn't have much money growing up, and so sometimes when there wasn't enough food stamps, we would have to steal meat and cheese and some of the more expensive stuff. And so I was the youngest, and so my siblings would push my stroller and then stick food behind me. And so we would I started stealing at a young age, and I still rack and stuff and corporations and stuff, obviously, but I feel, I don't know, if I pay taxes, I'm leaving with something.
It sounds like graffiti, even at a young age, it was a mild thing to get into. Right. When you come from a family of outlaws. Right. I would say, you speak of it so casually, but it's some pretty outlaw stuff that your family was doing because this was pre-legalization.
Right.
Right? And so dangerous stuff.
Right.
Things that can get you incarcerated, certainly, and boosting and racking at an early age. I think, for us that grew up as writers, the things you're talking about sound so normal to me.
Right.
However, for everybody else, this is serious stuff that you were sort of experiencing as a young person. And so I just imagine that graffiti wasn't such a big deal when you started it, since You already knew how to deal with police. You already knew how to rack, and you were sort of, groomed to protect yourself and your family from authorities.
Right. And I've definitely educated other people on how to talk to police when you're approached and what to say. And I mean, if they're going to be dicks, they're going to be dicks regardless. But there's certain things you can do to try to like avoid some of them sometimes. But yeah, I think I was just, because my family was so dysfunctional, we were just badass kids, you know what I mean? Like just, there was, I lived off of a dirt road, and there was like, it was a small community of people. The houses were spread out, but it's still like, you still have neighbors. And one of the houses was kind of abandoned because the older folks had passed away. And so I had seen in a movie that some kid grabbed a sock with a rock in it, or a sock with a rock, or like a shirt, and they broke into a window and opened the door. So I was like 8 years old with my brother and my friend, and we just like broke into a house when we were 8 years old, And I was the one that did it, and like, because I had a smaller arm, I like reached in and unlocked the door, and like we're sitting on some dead people's couch eating their candy, you know what I mean? Like stale candy, and just that was like my first bando, and I was 8 years old. So it's funny because I love exploring. That's like a huge passion of mine as well. And getting into places and figuring it out, it's a great adventure. I think graffiti for me is like, it's really about the adventure. I don't know if it's like, I love painting and I love letters and stuff, but I think it's like, for me, it's like the whole adventure of it.
Right, the experience.
Yeah. So yeah, the first time, because I started skateboarding first, when I was 14, I started skateboarding first, and then I was at a skate park in Truckee, California, which is not my hometown, but we would go up there they had a new skate park, and so we'd go up there and skate, and back in the day, we'd drink 40s and stuff, and we were sitting down at the river, and we're drinking 40s, and a freight train went by, and since I didn't grow up where there was trains, I had never seen graffiti before that. So I obviously couldn't read it, but it like was so colorful and big, and I knew that it was illegal, and I was like, somebody did that, like with no permission, like, and that blew my mind. I think I was like, oh, what the fuck was that? I don't think we had cell phones yet, so like digital cameras, so, but it would just slowly went by, and it was
right.
just,
you had to be in the moment and experience it. It was definitely King 157. Those early writers that were painting the trains were very special. They sort of sound like what you're into, which is exploration, right? And breaking and entering, or breaking into yards and doing things maybe first, because freight trains weren't always painted, right?
Right.
And so seeing them, that early on, that was kind of the beginning of that scene. Yeah. You'd watch the freight trains, and some of them would have art on them, some of them wouldn't. But those cool, colorful pieces like that you describe, they were very special because not too many people were really doing it big yet.
Right.
So I love that story. I love that you just happened to stumble upon it. You didn't know, and it left such an impression on you. When did you decide to paint those trains that you saw?
So I actually, what kind of led up to that was, we didn't have like how like there's Lowe's and Home Depot and stuff. My hometown is really small, so they had like a local hardware store where they would have some Krylon and shit like that. I don't even think there was Resto at that point. They just sold Krylon there.
Yeah.
So then I would get that. I obviously didn't know you could take the caps off the other like sprays and stuff and put that on the Krylon. I didn't know that because I was so new. But my friend I was underage, but I literally the next day went and got spray paint from the hardware store. I was so moved by it. I was like, I want to try that, you know? And my friend distracted the guy, and it's like right where you walk to get the spray paint, the floor is like wood floor, and it like creak, and it's all, and then he looks over, and my friend's like, oh, I need to do this, and distracts the guy so I could steal a couple of cans.
Right. I need the vacuum way up top.
Right. So I was able to get those to.
So where'd you paint? Did you paint an abandoned wall or a building?
No, we actually, in my hometown, we have like a river and there's like a bridge. And so there's little columns under the bridge and then there's little under thingies under the bridge. So we used to like listen to punk rock music and break bottles and smoke weed and stuff down there. And,
Classic.
Yeah. And that's where everyone would meet up. So like we would sell weed down there or like, yeah, we have a small town and a lot of people we're the same age. So we just had a huge group of friends where a lot of people's families were alternative. I think people moved up there to be alternative people, you know.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, it sounds like it's, I when you say this, I think about Humboldt County.
Yeah. So we're like the smaller of that.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think about
it's like
that.
hippies and rednecks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think about people that want to, do their own thing, pioneer in
Right.
their own way, have their own independence, and not mess with the law.
Right.
And and be free, and that's an alternative lifestyle. When it really just sounds like people being free.
Yeah, we're
right?
just growing your
It's
own
just growing
food.
up, right? And so for you, what's alternative was just normal.
So I have to take a drink break.
Oh, so we're going to take a drink break now. We are sponsored by Modelo, so thank you, Modelo, for hooking us up. We'll be right back. All right, we're back from our Modelo drink break. And, over the break, I was just saying how people normally think that graffiti is only a city thing, but you're a country girl. Mm-hmm. It's a totally different experience. In a way, what you're describing versus the city experience. However, young people getting together to be mischievous and have fun and experiment and play, it happens everywhere. Doesn't really matter if it's in a small town or a big city. People get together and they want to sort of share and have fun. And so I think that we share that no matter where we grow up, in that youth and, young people, kids, really teenagers, just want to have fun and be reckless sometimes and live a little. And I think skating does that. That community and the graffiti community has that as well. And so how do you go from there, underneath that bridge by the river, learning how to play with spray cans, to actually like doing it with style? Like where did the first stylistic things start to come in for you?
I think because after I saw that one piece on the train, we would go down to San Francisco. I think my first real concert was the Tibetan Freedom Concert. And I went to San Francisco at 14 and I saw Rage Against the Machine. I saw Beastie Boys. There was a lot of people that.
That was a good concert.
Yeah, it was insane. I think Bjork was there. It was crazy, but that was my first big concert. And I noticed some of the graffiti then, but I think what really hit it for me is some of my friends, I think one of my friends got their license and they're like, let's go to Sacramento to Aniba, because I also, a lot of my friends are into music and we all love hip hop. And even though we grew up to country and classic rock, like hip hop was, pretty big for a lot of me and my friends, so, and rap. And we would go to Aniba and get records, and then they had graffiti magazines in there. And that was the first time I found out that graffiti was like global. I didn't know it was a thing. I just saw it once, and then once I realized, like, oh my God, there's people from like Barcelona, there was Italy, and there was like clean cars, and they would say like where all these pieces were from. And so I took that home and just studied the fuck out of it. And then I, because it's before the internet, I didn't realize, like, once we were able to like Google stuff, not Google, but
Yeah, just
whatever.
Yahoo search or
Yahoo
whatever.
search, whatever. When you were able to go to the library, and because I didn't have a computer, and like look stuff up, and there was videos and stuff. And this is before YouTube, but
Yeah, we're talking
why do I so
mid 90s
Yeah.
is what we're talking about, either early or mid 90s. And so shout out to Amoeba for having those zines
Yeah.
available, and Tower Records. I don't know if
Yeah.
you remember Tower. Tower Records used to have all the graffiti magazines, and they were the best rack. You could rack everything. And so they definitely supported a lot of us zine makers back then. I remember a lot of my friends made zines, and they would pay even if the zines got racked. So we loved Tower Records. It probably is one of the reasons that they went out of business back then. But
Well, no, CDs came out.
CDs came out.
And because CDs were what everyone was using, so the records weren't as a commodity as,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I love the pre-internet graffiti
Conversation.
days that you're talking about, because you know, it wasn't so easy to find everything.
Yeah.
You know, the zines were there, but you had to know where to get the zines. I remember where I was when I found my first zine. You know, it was like this moment. It's like
Wow.
Grail. Like,
Yeah.
what is this thing?
Right.
Who are these people? What? I have to go there.
It's kind of like
You
how
know?
Christians feel about the Bible. It's like,
Exactly. We found the Bible, and so I remember that. I remember for me it was finding the only zine. Right, I'm a little bit older than you, right?
Yeah.
A year or two maybe, or 20 maybe. And so I came across a zine called IG Times, International Graffiti Times. And this might have been 1984,
I never heard
maybe
of it.
1985. It was the first zine. And it was folded up like a subway map
Wow.
in a rack in a comic book store. And I couldn't believe I had already fallen in love with graffiti. It was
Right.
everywhere. And I saw that, and it sort of unlocked things.
Yep.
It had an interview with people. Now it's like, they know who they are.
Right.
Like, it was just the wildest, craziest thing. So I get it. It's so special, and it unlocks this mystery.
Right.
So you get the zine, you see it, you start to study all this stuff. When did you make the plunge, or how did you take the plunge into doing your first big piece, or throw ups or
I
something?
think from getting that zine, I started like trying to copy the letters, and like I was like doing the most terrible toy shit, you know what I mean, with like weird arrows, extensions.
Sure.
And
Were you tracing them? Did you get a chance to trace any of them?
no, I just sat there and tried to draw because I didn't have tracing paper or anything. But my first graffiti name was Earth.
Earth?
Yeah.
Ah, that's
And then
so
so
apropos.
I would write Earth and then Mimi next to it. And so eventually I was in Vegas, and I was living in Vegas for a little bit. And I would go steal car paint from the, what do you call it, like the car,
Like AutoZone or
yeah,
something?
like AutoZone. And I would steal the car paint, and then because it had a fan tip, and it would just spray like a lot fast
Yes.
or whatever. So in Vegas, there's a lot of like open walls, and there's just so many walls and stuff and ditches. So I started there, and I kind of stopped doing the name Earth. I just was doing ME, just like ME, but it was terrible. Like, just, I didn't have no structure because I didn't have anyone showing me. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I never met anyone that did graffiti there. when I was in Vegas, but I remember one particular, it was a straight letter, and Dyer, KYT, he got, is that going to affect the,
Let's take a quick break.
okay.
Hang on, everybody. We'll be right back. We are back with Mimi. My name is Alan Kett. We are here at the Museum of Graffiti's Oral History Podcast, sponsored by Modelo. We're with Mimi today. Mimi is schooling us on being AKA Earth Me in Vegas and all these other great stories. Mimi, it sounds so lonely, your beginning of your graffiti journey, not meeting other writers. Who was the first writer that you met?
I'm trying to remember.
Someone obviously unremarkable.
Yeah. I think, well, I think who I first painted with was a skater friend of mine that maybe he had seen graffiti in San Francisco. And then so once he knew that I was doing it, I was trying to do freeways and stuff in my hometown, the highway, not a freeway, I'm sorry. There's like little walls on the highway, so I was trying to do that. And so he didn't really write graffiti. He was just like spray painting with me. So
Right, so he was just as curious as you were.
Yeah, we had no idea. So I'm trying to, there was really big moments in my life where I met people that I was like, holy shit. But
So what was one of those first ones? And you don't have to say me.
I was going to say about Dyer.
Oh, did you meet Dyer?
So I met him after his accident, but I saw...
Oh, so wait a minute. So this is Dyer, D-I-A-R.
Yes.
Benny Dyer.
Yes.
Okay, so Benny...
KYT.
Yeah, so Benny's a big deal.
So, well, I actually saw he had a straight letter, and I forgot who he painted with. I think he did a trip to Vegas, and he had a straight letter on the freeway there. And that's when I started doing straight letters, because I had never seen anything on the freeway.
Sure.
Or anything, and he had like, it was black and white, and it was super just kind of saucy. I knew it was graffiti. I like, you know what I mean?
Right, so you had a good example in front
Right.
of you that you could see and kind of
Right.
like really grasp.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting about Benny, and I don't know if those of you out there know this, but Benny is I think maybe a quadriplegic.
Yes.
Right? He
Yeah.
had some kind of an accident.
Yeah, I got in a car accident.
He got into a car accident, but his accident, or the accident, didn't actually stop him from painting.
Yeah, I know.
He continued
Yep.
painting even with his handicap.
So crazy.
Kind of incredible. Every time he posts something online, and you
Yep.
guys should look him up, it's Benny Dyer, D-I-A-R. I'm constantly blown away.
The death cheater.
The Death Cheater is a
Yeah.
good one, right? That's what it stands for?
Well, that's what his Instagram says.
The Death Cheater?
Yeah, I think his clothing.
Incredible, but every time I see his stuff, I'm like, he has so much love and passion and will to keep going, and he posts some pretty cool stuff.
He was just he was very up in Sacramento and Modesto and Northern California, so like he just would do random fields, like it would be like a field, and then there would be sorry, I keep hitting that. So there'd be a field, and then there'd be like a wall or something, or a trailer, and he'd paint the trailer. And a lot of the hoppers, like I saw one of his hoppers when I was in Sacramento 2 weeks ago. It was top to bottom hopper, straight letter that he had done. So
Amazing.
yeah, so I think that he played a big part on me. I've told him this.
Yeah.
I actually painted a tribute train to him, and I painted a tribute train to Nace and Lady Pink. I would like to paint more for people that aren't passed away, just as like a respect.
I love that.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a very cool thing
Just
to do.
people that have impacted my life in some way, you know. I never
Yeah.
met Nace, but because I heard a lot about him, and then he did so much for the freight train scene that.
Yeah, he was very, very active. Nace is also, you're bringing up Nace. For those of you out there, Nace is a writer from New Jersey, I believe, that passed away, I want to say over 20 years ago during a St. Louis event, I think it was. I think it was during an event, and from what I remember, he was killed in a car accident by a drunk driver.
Yeah. Okay.
And so very tragic, very young person who was at the height of his graffiti career doing really beautiful trains, painting with people like and Cause and others, and his life was tragically cut short. But you can definitely find his work online. But I love that you're painting these tributes for people, and people that you admire or have impacted you or influenced you, and I love that your early story includes someone like Dyer, who was prolific and is prolific, and it's great to hear just who people see. I
Right.
think for me with this oral histories talk, I'm kind of curious always about, or I think about family trees in a way, for graffiti, and to me the family trees are like what you're describing, even though maybe Benny isn't your friend or Dyer isn't your friend.
Oh no, we're friends online.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're friends. There's a connection,
Yeah.
right? And there's these sort of roots that we all have, and so I love hearing about that and sort of knowing, why or how or who. I like that.
We're friends
The friends
online.
online.
Well, I don't see, if you don't see people, it's kind of like that's your friendship.
We're friends online.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's, for the sake of time, let's jump into the future a little bit. Let's talk about Few and Far.
So I actually wanted, before we went there,
Okay.
I wanted to talk about what was I think was a huge thing for me is I actually went to a show that Persuade was having, and it was with Revolt, Persuade, Mike Giant, and I feel really bad because I forgot who else. I was trying to think about it last night.
Where was the show?
It was in San Diego. So I had moved to San Diego. I had moved from Northern California to Vegas to Sacramento to the Bay Area to San Diego. So
Okay.
I was like kind of, you know what I mean, just living my life and
Yeah.
being young.
Where?
And
So wait.
I believe I was 20 years old.
Okay.
And
So what year was that? Do you think?
I don't know. But I was 20 years old, and I went to a show that Persuade had.
Okay.
And it was the first time I'd seen like a graffiti show, and that blew my mind. I was like, what the fuck? And then my friend told me before we go, bring a little black book for them to sign, and I was like, what? And I was so scared to ask, and I was like, will you sign my book to Dave? Like.
That's amazing. Do you still have the book?
I do somewhere, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
And Revolt signed it, and so then I was nerding out, like looking up all their history because I saw Persuade everywhere in San Diego. So, it was such a cool experience. I asked him if he remembered. I'm not sure. I forgot what he said, but I definitely remember because it made a huge impression on me. And then I didn't realize that you could have like graffiti in a gallery. I'm like, what the fuck? There's
Right. Put it
graffiti
on
in a
canvas.
gallery? Yeah.
And still be up on the streets.
Right. It was a really dope show. It was really dope. And because I didn't know much about New York writers, like learning about Revolt, because I didn't know anything about him until I met him, and he was so nice to me. And I was very tomboy then. Like I had very short hair, wore really big clothes, so I just looked kind of like a little boy,
Yeah.
Yeah. And he still was super nice to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Revolt's a good dude.
Yeah. And I was toy as fuck. He's like, oh, let's see your shit. I'm like, yeah, it was terrible. I didn't really want, I didn't want to get better for about 15 years into painting. All I cared about was just doing spots, getting into abandoned spots and painting highways, painting billboards, painting trains. I didn't want to get better. I didn't give a shit about it.
Right. It was just normal. You were just in it, like you said before, for the
Right.
excitement, for the adventure.
Right.
Right. And that was it. Were you taking photos of the stuff you were doing, or not even?
Some of it, yeah. And I think once Flickr started, I kind of got more into documenting my shit. But really, I mean, one year I painted like 180 trains in a year, and I lived right by a train yard in Sacramento, and I barely flicked any of it. I didn't care. I was just dealing with mental health. So,
Right, you were living.
right.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that a lot when people are really, really bombing a lot. You might not take photos of the stuff. I mean, now it's so easy because we have phones with
Right.
cameras, but 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever, it wasn't the case. It costs money to take photos. You didn't.
I also didn't like my shit.
Right, so you didn't care. You just were there in
And
the
I
moment.
knew it wasn't like I was like in denial of me being good. Like I knew it wasn't good, but I didn't.
You just didn't care.
And I think it took me a long time to learn how to piece. And like to me, it's kind of stressful. Like painting a legal wall is not very fun to me.
I get
And then
that.
painting in front of people, it's so uncomfortable.
So when did it switch for you
It's
to
still
go
uncomfortable.
from not that, but I mean more from the not caring stylistically and just doing it for fun or for the adventure to, all right, I'm gonna do it for it to look good.
I think when I met Rhyme, I forgot what year we met, maybe 2010. I think 2010. I had already been painting for years, and him and some friends had come into town, and I had a trackside or whatever, and they painted over me and some other people, and I was like, man, like people can just come to town and paint over me. That's all. I was like, I must not be very good at like. So, I didn't want people from out of town just to come in and paint over me. I was like, I need to get better to where people aren't as inclined to paint over my shit. And then I moved to Atlanta for a year and a half, and Atlanta graffiti is very like straight letters, like on the like all the bombing. A lot of people do like funky straight letters that were just so saucy, and I think that was when I started learning about trains, is when I moved to Atlanta. So I think that was when my train addiction definitely started. And back then when I was living there, and I think it was like 2003, 2004, there was just, you could paint heavens, there's so much to paint. There's so many abandoned buildings, and it was a good time. It was wild as fuck. And it was really easy to paint trains there when I was there.
Big up Atlanta.
I had never painted a train during the day, and it's like,
it's crazy, right? Big up
Because in
Atlanta.
California, we had to be like on some militant shit.
So did it feel strange, or what? Did you finally get comfortable with?
Yeah, I was like, what? We can bomb this spot and the cops aren't going to come out and fucking beat us? Or, like Sacramento, all the cops are so fit and like ready. And then San Diego, they're all fit and like militarized and shit. And so, and then there's not much graffiti in both of those places because they just buff everything. And I went out to Atlanta. I was like, this is chill as fuck.
I
We're
love
just like
that.
painting and cars are driving by. I'm like, hey.
No one cares.
No, I wasn't saying hey, but I was like, oh, this is okay. This is chill.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, big up to Atlanta and Network Crew and all the homies there that have been painting freight trains for so
Right.
long. I love the fact that they're on the map.
Right.
Atlanta is a graffiti city too.
Yeah.
There's great riders from Atlanta. So you're in Atlanta. You learn about painting freights.
Yep.
And you haven't stopped. I know I've watched your post. You're still painting trains.
Yep. Not
Right.
as much as I would like, but I think it's because I'm just bombing is a lot easier. You only have to bring a couple cans, and it's you just get it done real quick, and you can go back to work or do what you need to do.
Yeah. So do you prefer bombing versus piecing or anything like
Yep.
that? You were mentioning before how nerve-wracking it can be doing pieces, or especially in public.
Yeah.
It's a lot, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I understand that. You have people over your shoulder and you don't know, and For me, I kind of identify with the bombing thing because it's very simple. It's very free. It's very fluid and fast versus, the level of commitment you need to take on to add like 10 colors in your piece or something, right?
Yeah. And it's funny because one of your questions, you were mentioning like, do you have a sketch or do you have a preparation? And actually I'll sketch one letter. That's one reason why I paint another name, is because, it's a tribute to somebody, but also, like having the same letter over and over, Mimi, is pretty annoying because it's like, I could, like a straight letter or whatever, a funk letter is easy, but when you're doing a piece, trying to connect the same letter over and over together, and then it's like you gotta kind of mirror them in a way. And it's just a pain in the ass. Like my
Not
name
simple.
is a pain in the ass.
I've noticed in some of your pieces you'll connect the letters up top with like a star, like, right? This thing, and I'm like, oh, I can see that you're really trying to connect them but not mimic them,
Right.
in a way, and it can't be easy.
Yeah. So sometimes I'll just sketch an M or a E or just an M, and I'll figure it out later. But most of the time, I literally just freestyle it, and then I don't like it. I don't like most of my pieces.
Yeah, I could understand the challenge. I think most people that see graffiti will say that it's complicated, and then most writers that are seasoned will say it's easy.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. Like coming up with original outlines, you'll see some writers that'll just do their same lettering over and over and over again.
I wish I could do that.
They'll just repeat it and just change the colors, versus other people that are fighting with themselves to do an original piece every single time. And it's not easy to be original and change the same letters hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. I think it takes tremendous skill to do that.
And I think another issue I have too is like, I'll paint it clean, but then I add all this crap around it and inside of it. And I don't know why, but it's because I get to be free, I guess. Because the structure, I wish I could just paint really loose and free, but I've never allowed myself to. But that's what I would rather do.
You've got to take a long graffiti trip.
Right.
Where you get to do hundreds of pieces in the daytime in a yard and break free of all the constraints.
Yeah, I think that doing super crisp, like straight lines is not really my thing. It's like I do it, I end up doing it, but it's not my favorite.
Well, I feel like it's also not so natural, I think, at times. Like with paint, the way it comes out, I feel like it feels like you should just keep going and moving and being round or squiggly versus like stopping and cutting and stopping and cutting.
Because I'm not that rigid of a person. So I think because I'm kind of like free and I'm like, I just want to be like, la, 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 and yeah.
Well, you see it in your throw-ups. The throw-ups look perfect, right?
Thank you.
And so they're big and they're round, right? They're kind of squishy.
Yeah, I like it juicy. I think of like women being like, as we age, we round out, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And so that's why I like my letters like big and juicy, because it reminds me of women's and our bodies. And like, I think as we age, we get harder on ourselves, We're like, oh, I don't look like, But I think that's the beauty of aging is you get a little voluptuous.
So you have voluptuous, mature throw-ups.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Curvy.
I think I might have voluptuous, mature female throw-ups myself. I don't know. I think I might have to make my throw-ups get fit.
Nice and juicy.
So let's jump a little bit into some other stuff, because you're not just a round throw-up person. You're an organizer as well. You come from this background of maybe, outlaw and some dysfunction and a lot of moving around. But you decided to do something very, very tough and to start an art collective. Tell us a little bit about that journey and why you decided to do that.
So, Few and Far was not meant to be a crew. I don't really consider us a collective because we have, I mean, we have board members, but those are people that help me make decisions because otherwise all my decisions would be really bad. I'd be like, get him out of here. No. But I think that I consider us definitely a crew because we have a voting system. We kind of have our own ideas and our structure that we stick to keep it flowing really well. But it just meant to be a wall project. Like, and I had never painted a mural before, but I had gotten permission of this super large building in Oakland. And I was like, well, I got permission, so what the hell do I do now? And then I actually ended up meeting Rhyme after I got permission of this whole huge city block in Oakland, in West Oakland. And he was like, oh, I'll help you. And so he helped guide me into getting a paint sponsorship. And then I was like, well, since I got the paint, maybe I can get some girls to come. And so that was a collective effort where there weren't many women that were painting graffiti at that time. And so we were like, okay, we're gonna reach out to as many people as we can. And so we ended up having some street artists come too. And it ended up being super beautiful. The project worked out really well. And we flew Two Fly in because she was a huge inspiration to me when I was younger. I forgot to mention that the women's graffiti book, when I found that and I realized that there was all these women, that's when I started digging in and looking at female crews and like all these people that were so influential, like Claw, PMS, the Stick 'em Up girls, Girls on Top crew. Like there's Shiro, like there's so many women, Queen Andrea, like that were such a huge influence for me, you know?
It's not easy being a woman in graffiti.
Yeah.
That book was really special,
Yeah.
really special.
Yeah.
It really was so well put together and such a nice survey of women around the world that were painting nothing like it before that
Right.
book. So really, really good sort of an encyclopedia, who's who of women. And the women that you mentioned, from Two Fly to Queen Andrea, etc., they were prolific. They worked really hard to get out there and make space for themselves. Knowing them personally, I know it was not easy for them. And so I salute you for
And 17.
and 17 and Claw.
Yep.
You know, it's tough. I mean, it's tough enough just to do it, period. You know, and then you add, a female gender to a hyper masculine, macho sort of movement, and it makes it even tougher. So you do this wall, you invite women to come in. Why did you think to invite women to come in to do it? I mean, were you already feeling a way about, sort of these gender dynamics?
Yeah, so I actually used to organize like women's campouts.
Okay.
Where we'd go camping and like I would teach women how to like, if they didn't know how to start fires, how to put up your own tent, like how to cook food,
Prior to this?
Yeah, so I used to do like these campouts, and then because I was skateboarding and doing graffiti, I was always like needing that sisterhood. I was like, man, where's all the girls at? Like this sausage fest sucks. Like I want to hang out with some women, because
Yeah.
I feel when I'm with women, I feel a deeper connection. Everything feels chill. Like sometimes men like to show off, or they act weird, or there's always, it feels like there's some incentive or something that they want. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to like women, it's like most of the time you can read if they're wanting something from you or if they're just being genuine. But it feels safer.
I get it.
And one thing I mentioned to Lushy last night was like another reason was, speaking of safety, is like there's a lot of men writers even in the scene now that have done essay to women writers, that have raped women writers, that are still in our community. There's, you know what I mean, have assaulted women artists or writers, and it's not just, but or other women. So it's like, I didn't feel safe in the man's club. Like, if I hung out with a male, it would be like either one-on-one, but I would never go painting with a bunch of guys. I just never trusted them to do that. And I also never gave a fuck what guys thought or wanted to be around them. Like, I think that I decentered myself from men to where their approval doesn't matter to me. But to me, I really focused on women skateboarders and artists. And I was like, obviously I respect the people that came before me, or like people that are very genuine, but for the most part, it's very misogynistic. It's very like selfish, and that's not a place where I want to be. And so I just would prefer to hang out with people that are like-minded and don't want anything from you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think self-preservation is
Right.
is key for all of us, you know. And I think that what you describe, being a young woman, aware of these things and seeing these things, you've got to protect yourself. And I think sisterhood is a great way to do it and have that camaraderie and that safety. And, you know, from the campouts that you're talking about or mentioned to creating a crew of women to paint together and support each other and have that sisterhood, I think it's a huge benefit to not just the women, but to the men as well that are around in the
Right.
scene, because you sort of, you isolate some of those creeps that you're talking about and some of those offenders that you're talking about, and you build sort of a safe zone for you and for your crew to flourish
Right.
without that nonsense or without the danger that could come when you're dealing with, I get, frankly, people that you might not know until it's too late.
Right.
I mean, I think some of the things that you're saying isn't necessarily so common information, or it's not so commonly shared that you know who's who and what's what. It's sort of very looked down upon and secretive, and people don't want to call each other out.
Yeah, well, a lot of us women, we actually have lists of male writers that are offenders in different ways. So there's like a West Coast list, there's the East Coast list.
Good.
Yeah, so we know who's who. So if anyone needs a list.
Hit up Mimi. No, I think it's really good to have that
hit me up.
so that you can,
Yeah.
who's who. I mean,
Yeah.
not that you're going to hit up Mimi for the list, but the fact that even exists, and so amongst your people, what's
Right.
up.
Right.
It's not gossip. It's like, what you're experiencing, and so it's a tough world, and I think skating must be very similar, in a sense.
So skateboarding has grown so much to where there's a lot of women that skateboard, and so now guys are so encouraging. It's a whole different, it's like so beautiful, and now it's like very common, and it's so accepted, and it's like men are happy to see women.
So it's a healthier scene.
Yes.
And so from 2011, when you first started this wall and this crew, to now, how has it changed for the crew and for women? Do you have a perspective on that?
So I think that as we were growing, like when we started, it wasn't meant to be a crew. We were like, we had a really great time. And so then trying to navigate that and trying to figure out like who actually works with that, who is down to be in a sisterhood. Some people like to be the only girl in the group of guys. Like they don't feel as seen when they're with a bunch of women. So that works, whatever works for whoever. I think we kind of figure out like how things work for us to where it flows good. And I think now we're finally at that point where it's like, sometimes you have to keep it moving, and I don't want to say shed, but sometimes just people go in other directions.
Yeah, I mean, I think crews change membership, right? It's just kind of a natural thing where, people move and that's a thing, or
And it's
people
always
just move
hard,
on.
because you want to keep that same relationship. You want to keep like a good friendship, and sometimes things don't work out or you don't see eye to eye. And that's why we have different things set up in place so that we have ways to communicate through, like we get professional help, a mentor to help us. Or, if there's some issues that we need to work out, then we get professional help to try to navigate stuff better.
And so with Few and Far, you start off painting this big production. I kind of know Few and Far, or when I think of Few and Far, at least I think of the big, all women productions that I've seen down here in Miami. Is that something that, the crew is always striving to do, or that you're always striving to do, is to bring everybody together and really do these showpieces?
I think that activism is our main focus. So all of us are activists, I would say, and care a lot about community, or care about things within each of our own communities. So that's our first goal. I think anything else comes after that. We just like to get together and have like a yearly party.
Okay.
And then we like to party with other people, other women too. So that's something where it's like, I get this big bright idea and I'm like, okay, let's go. And it takes about a year to plan. And yeah, I don't know. I guess it just turns into a bright idea I have, and then it's, it sprouts into what it is. But I think that it's a lot of work, and a lot of my own art has taken the back seat while I organize and make things happen, and I try to neutralize situations, and I'm trying to we are a sisterhood, so if somebody's going through something, we take our time out to guide our sister, or help them in any way, communicate with them, try to give them resources. So it's not just a graffiti crew. We're actually, we know each other's kids' names, we know each other's parents, we communicate about everything that's going on in our lives, so and there's a lot of us. There's 23 of us.
So who are some of the members?
There's so many.
Okay.
That would be a big list.
Okay, so
but we have skateboarders as well.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. So how did you so it sounds like the mission has changed over time with the crew, from just getting together to paint to actually feeling more like it's a family, like a
Right.
real crew.
Right.
And to just wanting to commune together
Right.
to paint, but really just being kind of like a support system, or really a family for each other. So I love that. That's really, really, really interesting. Let's switch, or actually, before we switch to another topic, what is next for Few and Far? When's the next Few and Far party or gathering?
So we're actually taking our first vacation party, a spraycation, to Puerto Rico. So we're going in November, and that's going to be our first fun. I mean, everything's been fun, but usually we have to do so much work.
Right, so this is not sponsored by a paint company with
This is sponsored by
massive wall.
This is sponsored by Monster Energy, so they're going to support us by doing this.
Great.
Yeah.
Big up to them for doing that. That's great. It's I think it's so interesting, and actually so important when there's support.
Right.
From
Right.
whoever, from corporations, from small businesses, from whoever wants to lend funds and support to make artists' dreams come true. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I think it's also important for us to have just a good time, where there's not a lot of responsibilities, we have a deadline. And because we're not making money off these projects we do, we're actually putting our own money into it. And I put a lot of stuff on my credit card, and it takes me all year to pay it off. And then, you know what I mean? So I'm paying for these projects to happen. We all are. And
Yeah.
And then hours of my time that, all of our time is precious. But I couldn't do it without my board members, especially. They help me with everything.
Right. I imagine that, it comes with these responsibilities, these big costs associated with it all. You know, you want to be successful, you know, and you also are probably juggling more than just few and far
Yep.
stuff,
Yep.
right? Because there's the rest of life
Right.
that you have to
I have
deal with.
another
It.
small business that I run. So
Right.
yeah.
So another small business that's a lot to take on. So, you know, big up to you for still being down and pushing it and really, you know, sort of pushing this crew forward to support each other and to have a good time.
Yeah.
You know, because the crew,
Thank you.
from what I know, is kind of scattered.
Mm-hmm.
They're from everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like just a local crew. So it's a lot of coordination to get people
Right.
to a certain place.
What's great is I feel like even for me and the other members is it feels like medicine. So when we get together, it's very healing. It's like, oh my gosh, like, you know, it's like a breath of fresh air or something. It's very strange. It's like when you see an old friend, an old family member, someone you really care about, and then you're like, oh, yeah, this is nice. So, yeah, I don't even know if it's just the art. Again, it's just the experience for me personally.
Well, it sounds like you guys have, or you women have become very close
Right.
during the years
Yeah.
of painting and getting together. So it really feels like you get to maybe be yourself.
Yeah. So what my goal is next is to release a book, which we're almost there, and have a art show, and then just kind of like in the art show display all of, because it'll be our 16 year, I don't know, 15 or 16. This is our 15. So next year is 16. So in the Bay Area, have an art show and then kind of like display of all of our flyers from over the years of the different events and the different names. And I feel that even though some people aren't in it now, everyone played such a vital part of the story. So I want to share that story because it's like even if we don't get along, they still played a vital part.
Yeah,
You
and
know.
some people might be part of the story that they don't even know that they're in the story,
Right.
right? Because that's, you know, kind of what happens. I think, you know, growing these crews or these organizations, it takes a lot of people to participate to make it happen. And some people come in for a little time, and some people
Right.
come in for a longer time. You kind of never know. But, you know, they're all part of the story if you recognize them. So let's, how are we doing on time? We're good? All right, we're good. Let's see if we get at least another few questions, if you don't
Okay.
mind. And I think we kind of got through a lot of the questions, but just some quick ones before we wrap it up. So as someone who's traveled so extensively, what's your favorite city and what's your favorite city to paint in?
So I like anywhere to paint as long as I can kind of paint. But I would say like Philly is one of my favorites, and Richmond, where I live, is my favorite. But I mean, as far as countries to visit, South America is so wonderful, and Asia, painting in Asia is just Southeast Asia and Asia. Some of my favorite places for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could collaborate with any artist, who would it be that you haven't collaborated with yet?
So it would definitely, and I feel like I would need to get a lot better before I would consider this, but just manifestation.
Okay.
Manifestation. I would definitely say Mad C, and then Musa, and Scene, and Mickey. And I mean, I have such a huge list. And then there's a lot of women that I just talk to on the internet that I would love to paint with. There's just a lot. There's a lot of people.
You've got to travel.
Yeah.
Those people are all accessible to you. Just
Right.
you gotta get ready. So besides November's trip, what's next for you, Mimi?
Well, I go to Pennsylvania in a couple days, and I just have a lot going on.
So this makes me think, and I didn't ask this before. So you're a sponsored artist,
Yeah.
right? And so you get to move around a lot and
Yeah.
do festivals and all this crazy stuff. How's that?
I've been sponsored by Monster Energy for 8 years, and I love it. They treat me really well, and yeah, it's a great organization to work for.
And they have other really interesting and cool people on their
Yeah.
roster, right?
Very talented. Yeah.
Really talented. I know Wayne
Yep.
and Risk and Hyro, I think, might
Yep.
be on it.
Mhm.
I don't know. Oh, Adam Fu.
Yep.
Is that it? Is that the
That's
team?
it. And me.
It's a great team. Big up to Monster Energy
Oh,
for
and
doing
Jex.
that. And who was that?
Jex.
And Jack.
Yeah, Jex.
Oh, Jex.
Yeah.
Another huge talent.
Yeah.
You know, big up to Monster Energy for having the, what is it? The innovative mind, or just the sense of knowing
Right.
to back this concept of a writers team. It's not very usual. Actually, I don't know, besides Spray Paint Company, anybody else who's done this before.
No, I don't. I'm not really sure either. And I think maybe some other companies were trying to do it now, which is great because there should be people having opportunities that outside of skateboarding and extreme sports. I think that artists are just supporting artists because I'm with Monster. I'm able to bring in other artists. Like I don't do any of the events by myself. I always bring in other women to kind of like have, the experience and also get flown out to a place and assist and paint. And so I help get them seen as well. So it's definitely, it's not just my journey. It's like whoever's with me is coming with me,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I love that. I mean, you bring up a good point. This model that you're talking about is a skateboard or skate company kind of a model, right? Like the skate teams, the ES team or this team or whatever team, and it's been happening forever. And the videos of them flying around the world and their sponsor teams, and it was such a cool way to see and learn about skaters through the videos and through these travels. Applying it to writers, I mean, one company is doing it. I think anybody who's seeing this, you guys should get on board. Sponsor writers, sponsor teams, come up with something. Modelo, I know you're watching this. Sponsor a graffiti team to travel around and be part of your activations or make it something new and something special.
Right.
Because there's so much talent out there, and there's so many people that are willing to connect and with an audience and be open to it. So, I mean, I love that they did it. I love that you're part of the team and that you also bring more people along with you.
Yeah, and then we also do skateboarding events as well. That's sponsored by Monster. So I'm able to fly to different states and connect with other women skate crews because before we started, there was some graffiti crews, but there was never a women's skate crew. But I think because of what we're doing, we were a huge influence for women and girls to create little graffiti crews and to create other things because we were, besides PMS, we were like the other female crew in America. There was no other. So there's us and then PMS, So
Yeah.
I think that's very influential on people to want to start crews and make connections. And so now when we travel, like when we go to Puerto Rico, we're going to hang out with a women crew in Puerto Rico. And it's just very special, And so when I went to Austin, there's so many good women skateboarders in Austin. And we went there and did like a skate video and all this stuff, and then met up with a whole team of insane skater girls there. So
Very cool.
yeah,
Very, very cool. So I love that. Mimi, thank you so much
thank you.
for your time, for schooling us on what's happening within the writers community today, and sharing your story. We love it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We live in such a crazy world today.
Land back.
All of it.
Yeah.
You mentioned Atlanta before, and it was sounding so nice, and then I remembered Cop City
Yep.
and the Cop City initiative in Atlanta and how crazy that's going to be if it actually happens, which I think is happening. And right here, Alligator, Alcatraz. Like, we live in a really crazy time, folks. And so I know we are all kumbaya, graffiti history, but it is a really tough time for people all over the world. And so big up for you for shouting these issues out and these things, and we show solidarity with people's struggles all over the world, and I know you do. So thank you for your time. My name is Alan Kett. This is Mimi. You are listening to the Museum of Graffiti's Oral History Podcast, sponsored by Modelo. Thank you for your time. We'll catch you next time. Peace.